The shipyard of the Andorran sector was always busy. Ships came and went, shiny cruisers, massive freighters, and sleek warships that gleamed under the sun of the twin stars. But there was one ship no one wanted to look at. It sat in the farthest corner of Dock 12, covered in dust and patches of rust that looked older than some planets. Its hull was dented in so many places it looked like it had been chewed by giants. Thick cables hung from its sides like dead vines, swinging gently in the wind. Every time a breeze came from the landing bays, the ship groaned like an old man trying to stand. The locals called it many names: the Scrap Queen, the Floating Coffin, or simply the Rust Bucket. It had fought in some war no one remembered. It had been abandoned for years, and the shipyard workers had stopped even checking on it. To them, it was nothing but junk metal waiting to be melted down, and soon, that was exactly what would happen. The Andorran Council had ordered it to be scrapped within the week, but that was before the humans came. The humans arrived quietly. They didn't come in grand ships or with loud music like some alien races liked to do. They stepped off a small transport, carrying toolboxes and heavy cases. There were only 7 of them, but they walked with a strange kind of confidence. The shipyard workers noticed, but they only laughed among themselves. "What are they here for?" one alien asked while tightening a fuel line on another ship. "To clean up the rust bucket," another joked. And they both laughed so hard they almost dropped their tools. The leader of the human group was a tall man with silver hair and a weathered face. His eyes scanned the dockyard until they stopped on the old wreck, while others saw a dead ship. He stood there for a long moment. The crew with him didn't rush either. They looked at the hull, the broken engines, the shattered sensor array, and said nothing. Then the leader walked forward. He placed his hand on the cold, cracked metal like a doctor checking the pulse of a sleeping patient. "This one still has life in it," he murmured. The others nodded, as if they had already known. By the end of the day, the humans had moved their equipment inside the ship. The alien workers watched from a distance, curious. It was one thing to inspect the rust bucket, was another thing to go inside. Most people believed it was unsafe. The floors were warped. The air smelled like oil and burnt metal, and the lighting flickered weakly. Inside the engine room, a soft drip of coolant echoed like water in a cave. The humans didn't seem bothered. They walked through each section, scanning, measuring, and making notes. Every so often, one of them would smile as if they had found something valuable hidden in the mess. That night, in the mess hall of the shipyard, the humans became the main topic. Alien engineers laughed over their meals. "They think they can make that wreck fly," one said. "It won't even survive the power-up test," another replied. Shaking his head, no one believed in the humans' mission. In the minds of the aliens, Earth's people were still new to deep space technology. Yes, humans were clever, but this was impossible. The rust bucket was beyond saving, but the humans, it seemed, did not care about what others thought. Over the next few days, their work began in secret. They closed the ship's main doors, and the sound of machinery started to hum inside from outside. Nothing looked different. It was still the same rust-covered corpse of a ship, but inside, wires were being replaced, panels removed, and entire systems rebuilt. The humans moved with speed and purpose. When one of them finished a task, another was already ready with the next step. It was as if they had planned every detail before they even stepped aboard. One morning, the alien foreman walked by the dock and saw something strange. The humans had set up a large device beside the ship, a human-made fusion generator. It was connected by thick cables running straight into the rust bucket's belly. "What are they doing?" the foreman muttered. He almost went in to ask, but the tall human leader came out, covered in grease. "Testing," the human said with a small smile. Then he went back inside without another word. That night, the shipyard fell silent earlier than usual. But in Dock 12, the humans were still working. the sound of drilling. Welding and quiet human voices carried through the air. The old ship groaned again, but this time didn't sound weak. It sounded awake. In the shadows, some alien workers watched with narrowed eyes. They didn't know why, but something about the humans' movements felt different. As if they weren't just repairing, they were preparing. The rust bucket was about to become something else, and the galaxy had no idea what was coming by the fourth day. Rumors had spread across the shipyard like wildfire. The humans had not only refused to dismantle the rust bucket, they had requested official clearance to run system checks. The Alien Council representative laughed when he read the request. System checks on that thing? He chuckled, handing the datapad back to the foreman. But since the ship was already scheduled for scrap, and no one cared what happened to it, the approval was given without much thought. When the news reached Dock 12, the alien workers gathered near the rust bucket. Some leaned against crates. Others sat on fuel drums, all watching the humans move in and out of the ship. The tall human leader stood at the base of the ramp, checking a datapad filled with glowing schematics. It wasn't the old ship's schematics. It was something different, something new. The foreman walked up, still curious. "You're wasting your time." "Human," he said, with a smirk. The leader glanced at him but didn't answer. Instead, he turned to his crew and gave a simple order. "Begin Phase 2. The humans worked with a precision that made even the skeptical aliens pause first. They stripped the ship's power core out entirely. It took 6 hours and the help of a massive cargo crane. When the old core was finally removed, a loud cheer rose from the aliens to them. This was proof the ship was dead for good. But then, without ceremony, the humans brought in a sleek black container. It was small compared to the old core, yet it seemed to hum with quiet power. The alien foreman frowned. He had never seen technology like it. Inside the ship, the corridors were being stripped bare. Old wiring came out in bundles. Rusted panels were stacked in neat piles, instead of replacing parts with standard shipyard spares. The humans used custom-built modules they had brought from Earth. Every piece fit perfectly. One human worked silently in the engine bay, installing strange curved plates along the inner walls. Another crawled through the ventilation shafts, replacing filters with something far more advanced. They were not restoring the rust bucket to its former self. They were turning it into something entirely new. By evening, the aliens who had been mocking them earlier now stood quietly at the edge of Dock 12. There was something unsettling about the way the humans worked. They didn't stop to argue, didn't show off, they just kept moving. Even when an alien tried to make a joke, the humans only gave a faint smile and went back to their task. It was as if they already knew what the end result would be. One night, 2 alien engineers snuck into the dock after hours. They climbed up the side of the rust bucket to peek through the open hatch. Inside, they saw the humans working under bright portable lights. The main deck had been cleared of debris, and the floors gleamed with new alloy plating. The air no longer smelled stale, it was crisp and fresh. Strange devices sat in the corners, glowing softly. The aliens didn't recognize half the equipment before they could get a closer look. The tall human leader noticed them. Without raising his voice, he said, "You'll see soon enough." The aliens left, shivering without knowing why. The next morning, Captain Rafe, though most didn't know his name yet, stood in front of the shipyard's supply office. He handed over a list of requests. It included heavy shield emitters, quantum navigation arrays, and reinforced hull plates. The quartermaster stared at the list in disbelief. "Why would you install this on a wreck that should be scrap?" he asked. Rafe simply replied, "Because when it flies, it won't be a wreck anymore." By the end of the week, whispers had turned into open debates across the station. Some aliens argued the humans were wasting resources. Others claimed they must be hiding a military agenda. A few wondered if the humans knew something the rest of them didn't. The truth was, Even the humans on Rafe's crew didn't have the full picture. They trusted him, and that was enough. One evening, as the twin suns sank behind the docking towers, Rafe stood alone at the edge of Dock 12. The rust bucket loomed before him, still wearing its scars, still looking like it had been pulled from a junk pile. But inside, it was alive again. He could hear the soft hum of the new power core through the metal floor. He closed his eyes for a moment, imagining it in open space, not limping, not hiding, but roaring across the void with the speed and strength of something reborn. When his crew joined him, he simply said, "We're not fixing her. We're upgrading her." The words carried more weight than any of them realized at the time. Far above, in the cold silence of space, trouble was already moving. Pirate fleets had been raiding the trade lanes near the Andorran sector. Their attacks were growing bolder, and the local defense forces were struggling to keep up. No one yet knew that the rust bucket, the joke of the shipyard, would soon face them, and when it did, the galaxy's laughter would end. The morning of the test came quietly. Dock 12 was half empty. But word had spread that the humans were about to try powering up the rust bucket. Most aliens came not out of support, but out of curiosity. They wanted to see the wreck fail in the most dramatic way possible. Some even placed small bets in the mess hall. Would it explode, or would it simply refuse to start? No one believed it would actually work. Inside the ship, the humans moved with calm focus. They had been working for days without rest, running checks and triple checks on every system. Captain Rafe stood in the engine bay with his hand on the new fusion core. Its deep, steady hum filled the air like the heartbeat of some great sleeping animal. "Final systems check," he ordered. One by one, his crew reported back. "Propulsion, ready. Life support, ready. Shield emitters, ready." The last word echoed in the bay, and Rafe nodded slowly. Outside, the aliens leaned on railings, some eating snacks as if watching a show. The old ship still looked terrible from the outside. The dents, the rust, the faded paint. It was the same pitiful sight. But that only made the aliens more certain that nothing would happen, after all. You couldn't change what something was, could you? Inside the cockpit, a young human engineer sat at the control panel. Her hands hovered over the activation sequence. "On your mark, Captain," she said quietly. Rafe gave a single nod. "Do it." The moment her fingers touched the controls, a deep vibration rolled through the ship. Lights flickered along the corridors, first dim, then brighter and brighter, until the whole interior glowed with clean white light. The sound of the engine starting was not the weak cough the aliens expected. It was a low, rolling thunder, the kind of sound you felt in your bones, outside. The ground beneath the dock began to tremble. Alien workers froze, their snacks forgotten. Their ears ringing with the sound, the exhaust vents at the back of the rust bucket came alive, instead of choking out smoke and sparks. They released a smooth, steady stream of blue light. The glow reflected off the dock walls, painting everything in an otherworldly hue. Some aliens stepped back instinctively, as if the ship might leap forward at any moment. One old mechanic rubbed his eyes in disbelief, muttering, "That's not the same ship," in the cockpit. Rafe stood behind the pilot's chair, watching the readings climb. The new power core was running at 98% efficiency. The shield grid was active, and the weapon systems were humming in standby. Everything was operating perfectly. Still, he gave no sign of satisfaction. This was just one step. And there was still much to prove from the observation deck above. The alien foreman leaned forward, gripping the railing. He couldn't deny it anymore. The humans had done something impossible. But his pride kept him silent. The others whispered nervously. They could all feel it now. This ship was no longer the harmless wreck they had mocked. It was something else entirely, something dangerous. "Let's see how she moves," Rafe said. The young engineer tapped the controls again. and the ship's massive landing clamps released with a hiss. The rust bucket rose slowly into the air, its old frame no longer groaning but holding steady. The hum of the engines deepened, and the ship hovered effortlessly above the dock. Even the air around it seemed to shift, as if the space itself was making room for it. Rafe gave the order to lower it back down. The ship landed with a soft thud, as graceful as a bird returning to its nest. Inside, the crew exchanged quiet smiles. Outside, the aliens could only stare. For years, they had walked past this ship. Without a second glance, now they couldn't look away. The test had lasted less than 5 minutes, but in those 5 minutes, everything had changed. The rust bucket had a voice again, not a tired wheeze, but a deep, steady growl. It was alive, and the galaxy would soon find out just how alive it truly was. That night, the humans kept working. They knew that power meant nothing without control. Upgrades continued, new systems were calibrated, weapons were tested in silence. But in the shadows, some alien workers began to watch with a different kind of interest. They were no longer waiting for the humans to fail. They were wondering what it would feel like to serve on that ship. Rafe, alone in the cockpit after his crew had turned in, looked out over the quiet dock. His reflection in the glass was faint, but the ship's glowing panels shone behind him. He knew what was coming. The pirates in the sector were growing bold. Soon there would be a battle, and when that moment came, the rust bucket would not just fight. It would prove to the galaxy that humans didn't just build ships, they built legends. For the next few days, Dock 12 became the most watched place in the shipyard. The aliens didn't admit it openly, but they were starting to take the humans seriously. Even so, no one could explain why the old wreck now had the power of a modern warship. And if the humans heard the questions, they didn't answer them. They worked behind closed doors, moving equipment in and out like a well-rehearsed performance. One morning, something strange appeared on the hull. Rows of smooth, dark panels were being fixed along both sides of the ship. They were not standard armor plates. They were too thin, too sleek, and they shimmered faintly when the light hit them. An alien mechanic squinted up at the panels. "What are those?" he asked. A human engineer carrying a toolbox glanced at him, smiled faintly, and kept walking without saying a word. By the end of the day, the panels were everywhere, covering parts of the hull that used to be weak spots. Some said they were just for decoration. Others whispered they were some kind of human stealth system, but no one could confirm anything. The humans kept their secrets well. Then came the weapon changes. The old forward cannon, the one that barely worked, was removed entirely. In its place, the humans installed a weapon that no one recognized. It had 3 long coils that pulsed with a deep blue light. Even powered down, it looked dangerous. The alien foreman leaned on the railing and muttered, "That's not standard tech." He was right. It wasn't. It was human-made, using designs the rest of the galaxy had never seen inside the ship. New control stations were being added. The navigation seat was replaced with a console linked directly to Earth's quantum star charts. It could map routes through uncharted space in seconds. The shield controls were upgraded with a system that could shift power instantly to wherever the ship was being hit. In the engine room, additional reactors, smaller but powerful, were installed to back up the main core if one failed. The others would keep the ship running at full strength every night when most of the station went quiet. The work continued. The soft hum of tools and the glow of portable lights filled the dock. From the shadows, alien workers watched. They could feel that the rust bucket was changing into something unrecognizable. But still, the humans gave no hint about its true purpose. Then came the strangest change of all. A section of the cargo bay was sealed off and rebuilt from the inside out. Massive reinforced doors were installed, and the interior walls were lined with some kind of flexible armor when one alien tried to peek inside. A human politely blocked his path. "Restricted," the human said with a calm but firm tone. The alien backed away, uneasy. Whatever was inside that bay was not for public eyes. By the 5th day, the exterior of the ship looked almost the same as before. Yes, it had new panels and strange devices fixed to it. But the old rust and dents were still there. It was almost as if the humans wanted everyone to think it was still the same worthless wreck. Some laughed at that, saying the humans were wasting time hiding their upgrades. Others began to suspect that the disguise was part of the plan. Finally, Captain Rafe called for a system sync test. It wasn't a flight, not yet, but it was the first time all the new systems would run together. From the dock, the aliens watched as the ship lit up from bow to stern. The stealth panels shimmered, the strange weapon coils glowed brighter, and a deep vibration rolled through the metal floor. Inside, the crew moved between stations, calling out readings. Every number came back green. Every system was stable. Rafe stood in the center of the command deck, his expression calm, but his eyes sharp. The alien foreman finally stepped forward. "You could tell us what you're building," he said, half a question, half a challenge. Rafe turned to him. "It's not what we're building," he replied. "It's what we're preparing for." Then he turned away, leaving the words to hang in the air. That night, a strange feeling spread through the station. It was no longer just curiosity or doubt. It was anticipation and a touch of fear. Everyone had mocked the rust bucket for years. Now, they didn't know if they wanted to see it fly or not. Because if it flew, it might change everything they thought they knew about humans. And deep in the restricted cargo bay, hidden from every curious eye, a secret system waited. A system that once activated would make the rust bucket more than just a warship. It would make it a nightmare for anyone foolish enough to stand in its way. The day of the test flight began without an announcement. The humans hadn't posted any notice or called for witnesses. Yet by mid-morning, half the shipyard had gathered around Dock 12. Word had a way of spreading. The aliens pretended they were there for other work, but their eyes kept drifting toward the rust bucket. Everyone wanted to see if the humans would really dare to take it into space. Captain Rafe and his crew moved with the same calm focus they always had. They didn't rush, they didn't smile for the crowd. Every checklist was read out loud. Every response was clear and precise. The docking clamps groaned as they were unlocked one by one. The old ship's frame shifted slightly, like a sleeping animal stretching for the first time in years. Inside the command deck, the air was tense but controlled. The pilot's hands rested lightly on the controls. "Engines standing by," she said, her voice steady. Rafe stood behind her, looking out at the open hangar doors ahead. Beyond them lay the black sea of space, dotted with the faint light of distant stars. From the observation deck, the alien foreman leaned forward. He told himself it was just curiosity, not respect, but something in his chest felt tight as the ship's engines began to hum. The sound was different from the first power-up, deeper, stronger, almost alive, with a low vibration. The rust bucket lifted off the dock. It didn't wobble or groan the way it used to. It rose with the steady grace of a ship that belonged in the sky. The blue glow from its exhaust painted the dock walls in light. Some aliens stepped back, shading their eyes. The ship cleared the dock and drifted forward. Rafe gave a single nod to the pilot. She pushed the throttle gently. The engines roared, and the ship shot forward faster than anyone thought possible. Sensors on the dock struggled to keep up. Gasps filled the air. "That can't be the same ship," someone muttered, out in open space. The pilot guided the rust bucket into a smooth arc. The upgraded navigation system plotted the curve perfectly. Asteroids ahead were no threat. The ship slipped between them with precise movements. On the command deck, the crew moved like clockwork. Every station reported green, every system held steady. Rafe gave another order. Weapons test, target asteroid 9. The forward cannon, once a useless relic, came to life with a deep pulse. Blue coils glowed brighter and brighter until the weapon released a single shot. The blast tore through the blackness. Striking the asteroid dead center, the rock didn't just crack. It shattered into hundreds of glowing fragments. For a moment, the light from the debris lit the cockpit like a sunrise. On the observation deck back at the shipyard, the crowd went silent. Even the ones who had mocked the humans couldn't hide their shock. They had just seen a ship older than some planets move like a predator and strike like a god. No one spoke. For a long moment, in space, Rafe wasn't done. "Stealth systems, engage," he ordered. The black panels along the hull shimmered, and then, to the naked eye, the ship seemed to fade. The sensors at the dock lost the signal completely. To the onlookers, it was as if the rust bucket had simply vanished. A few aliens swore softly under their breath. "Disengage stealth," Rafe commanded after a minute. The ship reappeared, drifting smoothly back toward the dock. The pilot slowed her approach until the landing struts touched down with a soft hiss. The engines powered down and the dock fell silent. The humans disembarked quietly. They didn't raise their arms in victory or boast about what they'd done. They simply walked down the ramp, carrying their equipment as if nothing unusual had happened, but in the crowd, the whispers had already begun. "They've made a warship out of a corpse," one alien said. Another replied. "No, they've made something more." Rafe paused at the base of the ramp. His eyes scanned the faces in the crowd. Some were filled with fear, others with admiration. He didn't say a word. He didn't need to. The message was already clear. The rust bucket was no longer a joke. It was a weapon, a hunter, and soon the galaxy would know it by name. Far away, beyond the trade routes, a pirate fleet was already on the move. They didn't know it yet, but their path would soon cross with the reborn ship. And when that day came, there would be no second chances. The call for help came late in the night cycle. Most of the shipyard was quiet, but Captain Rafe and his crew were still awake. A distress signal was echoing through the comms, a convoy under attack near the Orion Rift. The message was short, broken by static, but the meaning was clear. Pirates, heavily armed, moving fast, and no defense ships close enough to respond. In time, on the dock, the alien foreman heard the call too. He knew the nearest patrol fleet was at least 2 hours away. By then, the convoy would be nothing but drifting wreckage. When he saw the humans moving toward the rust bucket, he stepped forward. "You can't take that thing into a fight," he warned. Rafe didn't slow his pace. "We're not taking it into a fight," he said. "We're ending one." The docking clamps released, and the engines lit up with a deep, steady roar. Within seconds, the rust bucket lifted off and shot into the black. From the observation deck, the foreman watched the blue glow of its exhaust fade into the stars. He had no idea if they would return. In the cockpit, the crew worked in complete sync. The upgraded navigation system plotted the fastest route. Cutting straight through the rift's outer asteroid field, other ships would have slowed down or gone around. The rust bucket didn't slow at all. It weaved through the drifting rocks with precision that made even the veterans on board glance at the pilot in awe. When they cleared the last asteroid, the battle came into view. The convoy's cargo ships were surrounded by 6 pirate raiders. Laser fire lit up the darkness, and explosions tore through the black like silent thunder. One freighter's engine was already gone, and another's shields were collapsing. The pirates noticed the incoming ship. Their scanners marked it as an old, damaged warship. They laughed over open comms, mocking the humans for arriving in what looked like a floating Rafe didn't answer them. He simply said, "Weapons hot." The forward cannon fired first. The blue coils glowed brighter than the stars before releasing a beam of energy that tore through the nearest pirate ship in one shot. The hull split apart, glowing shards spinning into space. The pirate laughter stopped instantly, replaced by panicked shouting. Two raiders broke off and charged toward the rust bucket. The humans engaged the stealth system to the pirate sensors. The ship vanished completely. They fired wildly into empty space, their shots striking nothing. Then, without warning, the rust bucket reappeared behind them. Its side guns opened fire, ripping through their engines before they could react. Both ships drifted, powerless as the humans moved on. The remaining pirates tried to scatter. Rafe ordered the pilot to push the engines to maximum. The old-looking ship moved like a predator, cutting off one target after another. Every shot from the upgraded weapons was precise. Every hit ended a ship in less than 6 minutes. 4 pirate raiders were gone. The last 2 fled into the rift at full speed. The humans didn't chase them. They had made their point. The convoy was safe. Not one more cargo ship had been lost after the rust bucket arrived. The freighter captains opened a channel, their voices filled with disbelief. That was you?" one asked, as if not trusting his own eyes. Rafe simply nodded. "Stay on the trade lanes," he said. "You won't see them again," as the convoy limped away. The crew of the rust bucket began the trip back to the shipyard. No one on board celebrated. They didn't need to. They had done exactly what they came to do. Back on the station, news of the battle spread faster than light. The story grew with every telling. Some claimed the humans had destroyed 10 pirate ships. Others said the rust bucket could vanish into thin air and strike from nowhere. The aliens who had once laughed at the old wreck now avoided speaking against it. A few even spoke with quiet respect. They had seen what happened when humans rebuilt something. It didn't just work. It became unstoppable. In Dock 12, the alien foreman stood waiting as the rust bucket returned. When the ramp lowered, Rafe stepped out first. The foreman met his eyes and gave a small nod. No words were exchanged. They didn't need them. Both men knew the shipyard and the galaxy would never look at that vessel the same way again. And far beyond the station, in dark corners of pirate space, whispers began to spread. The rust bucket had been reborn. It was hunting now, and no one wanted to be its next target. The battle at the Orion Rift was only the beginning. By the time the rust bucket returned to Dock 12, the story of its victory had already reached 3 sectors. No one called it the rust bucket anymore. The freighter crews who had been saved started calling it something else, the Iron Phoenix. The name spread faster than the truth, and soon even those who had never seen the ship spoke of it in whispers in the shipyard. The aliens who once mocked it now gave it space. Some even offered quiet nods to the human crew. It wasn't friendship yet, but it was respect, and respect was something no ship that old had ever earned before. Captain Rafe didn't care much for the name or the attention. He cared about the fact that the upgrades had worked. The ship was fast, deadly, and hard to track. It had done exactly what it was built to do. Still, he knew the galaxy would test it again. And soon, over the next weeks, distress calls kept coming. Convoys, outposts, and even patrol ships began requesting aid from the Iron Phoenix. The humans never refused. They launched without delay, arriving like a ghost out of the dark each time. The results were the same. The attackers fled or were destroyed. The defenders survived, and the legend grew. Some claimed the ship could outrun any vessel in the galaxy. Others swore its weapons could cut through the shields of a battleship in seconds. The truth was simpler. The humans had built a ship with no wasted parts. Every system worked together. Every upgrade had a purpose. It was not the biggest ship, but it was one of the most dangerous. In pirate space, the name Iron Phoenix became a curse. Raiders would abort attacks at the first rumor it was near. Some even abandoned planned raids after spotting a faint blue glow in the distance. They didn't want to be the next wreck drifting in the void in the Andorran Council chambers. The conversation shifted to, at first, they had thought of the humans as stubborn engineers clinging to old junk. Now, they spoke of them as a strategic asset. A single ship that could tip the balance in contested sectors. But the humans didn't work for the Council. They chose their missions, and that freedom only added to the mystery. The alien foreman at Dock 12 still watched their launches and returns. Over time, his quiet respect turned into something like pride. He had seen the ship in its worst state. He had seen it mocked, and he had seen it rise again, like something reborn from fire and steel, one night. While the ship was being refueled, the foreman stood beside Rafe. "You've done more with that ship than I thought was possible," he admitted. Rafe didn't smile. She had the bones for it. He said, "All we did was give her a reason to fight again." The crew felt the same. Every member knew they weren't just flying a ship. They were part of something bigger. Something that had gone from forgotten scrap to living legend when they walked through the station now. Strangers stopped them to shake their hands, and every time, they simply said they were just doing their job, far away, in systems untouched by human hands. The name still traveled. Iron Phoenix, the ship that rose from the dead, the warship that looked like a relic until it struck, the vessel that carried humans who never backed down. One day, the humans received a transmission from a convoy captain. They had never met. It was short, just 3 words. "We feel safe." Rafe listened to it twice, then saved it in the ship's log. He didn't need medals or titles. That message was enough, and so the Iron Phoenix kept flying, not because of glory, not because of fear, but because somewhere in the cold black between the stars, there was always another call for help, and the humans would answer it every time. Because the galaxy had learned something it would never forget. You could mock a human ship. You could laugh at its dents, its rust, its age. But once the humans touched it, once they rebuilt it, it would rise again, stronger than before. And when it rose, nothing could stand in its way.